let's learn 5 more phonograms. Now, you are learning the phonograms in a very rapid pace. I like to take more time when I'm introducing them to students, obviously, but I would like you to become familiar with as many as you can during this course. We will be introducing 56 out of the 74, and hopefully that'll give you a real head start on teaching the logic of English to your students. The first one that I'd like to show you right now is N, 2-letter N, and then we can compare this one to N, 2-letter N. You'll notice they both end in an N. One starts with a G and one starts with a K. This is this is and this is And as you know, we also had one other so we have in English this problem because we have 4 spellings of the sound. We will be talking about these spellings more in a few minutes and how to handle teaching them. Right now, I wanted to make you familiar with each of them. Let's go ahead and practice the sounds that you just learned. N, N, and Okay, let's take a moment and look at 2-letter N. I would like you to notice that this form of N is used only at the beginning of the word. This is 2-letter N used only at the beginning of the base word. And now, the etymologist or the linguist who talked to me about the 2-letter phonogram also told me that there was a relationship in meaning in the 2-letter N phonogram. For me, this is not as clear, but I thought I'd share it with you anyways. Do you notice anything related in meaning between a knee, a knife, knitting needles, or a knapsack? Also, pay close attention that the knapsack is on a stick. So all of these have some sort of stick shape. And so the linguist shared with me that the 2-letter N phonogram was used to indicate a stick-shaped object. So once again, this can be used as just another tool to help remember these words. I'd also like you to see the words on this slide with the 2-letter N phonogram here. You'll notice that this form of N can be used both at the beginning and the end of the base word. Let's now address the multiple spellings of the sound of How many ways have we learned to spell Take a moment and write them down in the teacher's training manual on page 126. All right, compare them to what you see on the screen. I would like to take a few moments to help you gain some ideas on how to help your students master words with the sound in them. These are sometimes called R-controlled words in English, and they're very common, and it can create a lot of confusion for spelling. First of all, it's important for your students to know that these are in the order of frequency. So ER is more common than IR, which is more common than UR, and EAR is the least common. In addition, the of her, spelled ER, is the most common by a long shot. It is used in about 80% of words with the sound. So if you have to guess ER, if you're resorting on just making a guess. Another way that you can help your students is to create a word wall in your classroom or to have a spelling journal where they collect words. They will then experience the frequency because the ER list will fill up very, very quickly within a few days. IR will probably fill up, but not so quickly, and UR maybe will fill up depending on how long you work on the list, and EAR, there's really only a few words. You could list them all out and not fill up the list. Another idea about how to help students with these words is to be very intentional to play spelling games with these words. Play spelling basketball with them. You can also challenge students to make up sentences that include all the phonograms. So for example, you could assign 1 point to ER, maybe 2 or 3 points to IR, 4 points to UR, and 5 points to ER, and see which student can create a sentence that's worth the most points. It's important that you have a lot of practice for students using these words and spelling, especially if they have an IR, UR, or EAR phonogram in them, so that they can master them. Let's go on to discover our next rule. I have put a list of words for you up on the screen. They are also found in your teacher's training manual on page 127. And I want you to notice what sound of I are you hearing in each of these words. in wild, child, mild, blind. That's right, you're hearing the long I sound. And what sound of O are you hearing in these words? Bold, cold, gold, roll, both, bolt. You're hearing the long O sound. Can you look at these words and see what they all have in common that might be triggering the I and the O to say their long sounds in these words? Well, what is common between them is that I and O are both before two consonants. And that leads to the rule I and O may say I and O before two consonants. Now, notice I and O may say I and O before two consonants. Does it always? No. In fact, you can see in this list here, bill, milk, sick, drink, lock, golf, doll, sock. I and O in these words are saying their short sound. When we write spelling rules, it's very important that we word them carefully. We don't want to set up we don't want to set up students for exceptions unnecessarily. And if we word the rule carefully, we can alert them to what may happen and let them know that this does not always happen. All right, I believe that we are ready for Spelling List 6. Spelling List 6 can be found on page 128 and 129 of your teacher's training manual. Go ahead and turn there. Once again, take some time to practice dictating this list by yourself, and then have the video turned off. Then you can come back, turn the video back on, and we'll do the list together. Welcome back. I'm sure you have a few questions when you got to the end of Spelling List 6. We will address those in a few moments, and we will lean heavily on morphology to answer those questions. In the meantime, I'd like to begin with the first word, sign. Sign your name on the line. Sign. Let's sound it out together. S, I, N. This is two-letter N used both at the beginning and the end of a base word. Go ahead and write it. And now help me to write it. S, I, N. And how will we mark it? We'll put a line above the I, and we'll underline the two-letter N. Why did the I say its name? Because it's before two consonants. And what's the rule? I and O may say I and O before two consonants. The next word is design. He will design the card. We will say to spell design. How many syllables? 2. First syllable is D, D, E. Second syllable, zine, Z, I, N. Go ahead and write it. And now help me to write it. The first syllable is D, D, E. Second syllable is zine, Z, I, N. How will we mark it? We'll put a line over the E. Now notice, what sound did Z say in this word? It said its second sound, Z. So we'll put a little 2 over it. And what did I say? It said its long sound, so we'll put a line over it. And then we'll underline the two-letter N. Now, why did the E say its long sound? That's right, it's at the end of the syllable, and A, E, O, U usually say their names at the end of the syllable. Why did the I say its long sound? I and O may say I and O before two consonants. And here we have two-letter N that may be used both at the beginning and the end of the base word. You can notice sign and design are related words. They have related roots. And you can notice that the S says here, and it says its voice sound Z in its derivative design. The third word is remember. Remember to bring your coat. Say to spell remember. How many syllables? 3. The first syllable is re, E. Second syllable is mem, The third syllable is bur, That's the of her. Go ahead and write it. And now help me to write it. The first syllable is re, E. Second syllable is mem, The third syllable is bur, How will we mark it? we'll put a line over the E. Why did it say its name? A, E, O, U usually say their names at the end of the syllable. And we can underline the You can notice here one of the roots, mem. We have memory and other related words, and re means to do it again. The next word is child. This is my child. How many syllables in child? 1. Let's sound it out together. Ch, I, l, d. Go ahead and write it. And help me to write it. Ch, I, l, d. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the ch, and we'll put a line over the I because I said its name. Why? Because it's before 2 consonants. Word number 5 is bird. The birds are singing. Bird. Let's sound it out together. B, This is the of first. D. Go ahead and write it. And help me to write it. B, d. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the Now, one little comment about teaching the sounds that I forgot to mention earlier. I like to, with my class, choose some words that we can use to remember these sounds. They'll become our cue words for the whole class. With the IR, I often use first. With UR, I often use hurt. With EIR, I often use early. And it's just a way that we can refer to them together. But you can choose any word with your class just so that everybody's on the same page and knows when you say the first, you mean IR. The 6th word is sail. The boats sail at night. Sail. Let's sound it out together. S-A. This will be 2-letter A that you may not use at the end of English words. L. Now remember to help your kids think through things like this is in the middle of the syllable and this is the most common spelling that we have learned so far at that point. Go ahead and write it. And now help me to write it. S-A-L. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the A. The next word is water. Water the flowers every day. Say to spell wa-ter. How many syllables? 2. First syllable is wa. W-aw. This is an a-a-aw. The second syllable is ter. T-er. Go ahead and write it. And now help me to write it. The first syllable is wa. W-aw. The second syllable is ter. T-er. How will we mark it? This is actually not saying it's long sound here. It's actually saying it's broad sound. A-a-aw. So we'll put 2 dots over it. And then we'll underline the Now, usually the vowels A, E, O, U say their long sound at the end of the syllable. There's a few places where they don't. And one of them is after a W, the A sometimes says it's broad sound or commonly says it's broad sound. So that will happen in words like water, wall, wash. Okay, word number 8, say. I say that is a strange looking dog. Say. Let's sound it out together. S-A. This is 2-letter A that you, that's right, may use at the end of English words. Go ahead and write it. And now help me to write it. S-A. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the 2-letter A. The 9th word is says. He says we are leaving at 5 o'clock. Now, I want you to say to spell says. Okay? So we say to spell says. Stick with me and then we'll talk about it a little further. So S-A, 2-letter A that you may use at the end of English words. Z. And then go ahead and help me write it. S-A. Z. And how would we mark it? We'd underline the 2-letter A and we'd put a 2 over this Z. Now, I know that in English today we say says with a clear S sound. This could be considered one of the exceptions to the language or to the logic of English because it's a place where the phonogram no longer clearly says its sound. It's not an unaccented syllable. However, we can still talk about the logic behind the spelling. You'll notice that say and says both have a two-letter A in them, and they are very related in meaning. This is just the difference in person. I say and he says, so first and third person. So when we draw the logic and the morphology together, we can see more clearly, even though the pronunciation of this word has shifted over time. Number 10, said. She said, it is time to leave. What do you think we're going to say to spell for said? That's right, we're going to say to spell said. Let's go ahead. A, two-letter A that you may not use at the end of English words, D. All right, go ahead and write it. And now help me to write it. Said. A, D. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the A. Now, you'll notice AY and AI are related phonograms. We don't say said, but you can see that they are somehow related in meaning. We also have a lot of irregular verbs in English. We have pay in past tense becomes paid. We have lay, laid. And this is a common pattern where a word ending in two-letter A in the past tense turns into an AI. So when we draw these connections, we don't have to rely strictly on rote memory. We can understand a little bit more. We might think, oh, maybe someone used to say said, and over time that pronunciation has changed. But we can see that there's a relationship in meaning, and it's not completely crazy. Let's now apply some of what we've learned about multiple spellings of sounds in words found in this list. For example, we have the word bird, as you see on the screen, and let's say your students keep forgetting and use an ER as in her to spell bird. How could you help them? Maybe you've thought of a few of the ideas that we've talked about, but one idea would be that you could find derivatives related to the word bird. You'll notice here on your screen, there are a lot of derivatives of bird. You could talk about cowbirds and blackbirds and bluebirds and snowbirds and sunbirds and go on and on and on and help students develop their vocabulary while practicing the spelling of the word. What if they're misspelling the word sign? Let's say they're using an I with a silent final E. One thing you could do would be to create a spelling matrix. Now, I have one on the screen that I created using the word sign. And what I've done is I've taken prefixes that work with sign and put them on one side, and then I took the suffixes and put them on the other side. And then you can begin to use these together. So let's create some words together. We could make the word design, just with a prefix in the word, or designs, or designed, or designing, or designer. We could do cosine, we can do resign, we can do assignment, we can do consignment, we could do no prefix and something like signature or signal. You can see that there are maybe 100 or more words just off of this one matrix. Now, I would recommend that you could create matrices with your students in the classroom. One way you could do this is if you have a word, you could write it on the board, and then your students could come up with prefixes and with suffixes that work with that root word. You could also have students create a matrix, and you can say to them, here's the root, and your homework is to create a matrix. And you can then compare them in the classroom. You could have students create a matrix and then trade it with another student, and the other student has to find all the derivatives. So these are just a few ideas. Now, if you're not comfortable making your own spelling matrix, what you can do is you can go to this website, www.realspelling.com, and you could buy the DVD that is sold on that website of pre-made spelling matrices. And the gentleman that owns this website has quite a number of them on this DVD, and they should get you started and how to be able to use this concept and then to be able to create your own. They'd also be great vocabulary development exercises to use with your students.